Good morning. Welcome back to my garden. I'm Alex, and today is the fourth garden tour of 2021. It's a really special garden tour because everything in the garden is starting to take shape. I'm really beginning to be able to see what it's going to look like in just a couple short weeks. The explosion that happens sometime a little after midsummer, when everything is just wild. I'm starting to be able to see what that's going to look like. It's really exciting and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So the most obvious change to the garden is this pumpkin plant. This is one pumpkin plant, you guys, and I didn't even plant it. This small garden right here in the picket fence, this is my flower and herb garden this year. It was my main vegetable garden last year, but I expanded to all of this space over here. Last winter, I spread compost out over the surface, homemade compost, and I had thrown in a couple of large jack-o'-lanterns, and evidently the seeds did not have time to break down because I had several volunteer pumpkin plants in this area, and I decided to let some of them grow, and I'm glad I did because it's beautiful. Hopefully I'll get a pumpkin out of the deal. But this is just one plant. It starts in the corner back there is where it starts, and I just trailed it all along the top of the fence, and it's spread like crazy. Look at these pumpkin flowers. That's gorgeous. The pollinators love the pumpkin blooms, and this is a male flower. I think all the ones that are open right now are male flowers. I'm not seeing too many female flowers on this plant for some reason. Yeah, that's a male flower too. So I don't know. I don't even know what variety this is or if I'll get a pumpkin from it, but it is beautiful. The next thing you notice right from the get-go is the echinacea. This echinacea is way bigger than it was last year, which is the first year that I planted it from seed, and it's just massive. The flowers are beautiful. It's really early in the morning right now, so you can't see all of the bees that are buzzing. Yesterday I was out here around midday and this plant was just covered in bees. The echinacea is beautiful. You can make tea from the leaves and the flowers. The most potent echinacea tea is made from the roots, and as you can see, this plant is so big and thick that probably in the fall I'm going to be digging up and harvesting a lot of the roots and separating out the plants to thin it out so that it doesn't just keep getting even bigger, because it would take over this space. All right, so let's come on in the garden. Got echinacea. You kind of have to just walk around it. So there's a lot going on here that you can see, and there's a lot that you can't see because a couple of days ago I sowed so many seeds. This whole area I filled with zinnias, some dwarf coreopsis, even some calendula over here, and I have some zinnia sprouts. See, that's a zinnia, that's a weed, that's a zinnia. But yeah, there are zinnias popping up here, and they are going to be the queen lime varieties. You can see these are zinnias that I started indoors, and they are the queen lime blush, and the ones I planted all around this side of the circle are the queen lime red and the queen lime orange. And I've never even grown zinnias before, and I'm just so excited. This pumpkin plant is pretty ridiculous. You can see this arm trying to reach out here. I'm just going to tuck it back through the fence because I don't want this area full of pumpkins. I want it full of flowers, and I'm just gonna let the pumpkins go that way. All along the border of the circle, I have got feverfew, which is going to make little white flowers. It's also a medicinal herb. And this is alyssum. Oh wow, I didn't realize that already had some buds on it. So I've never grown feverfew or alyssum, but they're going to be really cute, I think. I got another sage plant because my previous sage plant died. My rosemary is going strong. I've never had a rosemary plant this big before, and I actually used some of it when I was making dinner last night. You've got sunflowers that are starting to get big. These are like a mammoth variety, and then there's some smaller sunflowers that are a red variety. And oh my gosh, that one bloomed already? It's a really small little red sunflower, but it's my first sunflower of the season, which is cool. And it looks like it's making several heads on this one sunflower plant. There's another one. These were not open yesterday. I didn't know that they were going to bloom so quickly. I thought that they would get bigger. They're probably only about 2 feet tall, 2.5 maybe. So that's interesting. And you can see this is a second pumpkin plant that I decided to let grow. I'm training it all along the top there. And these sunflowers are gonna get big, so I don't know if the pumpkin plant that grows along the back fence, I don't know if it's gonna get enough light, but we'll see. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful big green leaves now, so I'm happy to let it grow. Also, these are straw flowers that I started indoors from seed. There's more on that side. I grew straw flowers last year, and they grow to be about 5 feet tall, and they make the most gorgeous blooms. So if you can imagine, you can see what I'm talking about. The vision is starting to take shape. The back is going to be a really tall wall of sunflowers. So it's going to be like a wall of green with really tall straw flowers on either side, tall, beautiful zinnias all around here. I even planted some extra scarlet kale here. That's what you see. And I planted another one. Oh, I don't see it. What happened to it? Okay, something ate it. Great. Well, I planted two scarlet kales, and something ate one of them. But I had extra scarlet kale, and it's so beautiful. I thought it would be really nice and ornamental in this space, and I could eat it as well. Something else really exciting, 5 turmeric plants. I grew turmeric last year, and when it died back and I dug it up to harvest the roots, it was really spectacular to have fresh turmeric roots, and they store for a long time. I kept a bag in the fridge for months, and I used that turmeric for months in smoothies and teas. Turmeric is delicious, and it's really good for you. If you've never grown turmeric or even had it, It's a root that looks like ginger, but it's bright yellow. You can even use it to make dyes and things like that. But it's really, really healthy and anti-inflammatory. And it makes these big, maybe 4 feet tall, beautiful, lush, tropical looking plants. And I've got some sunflowers planted behind the turmeric. And what else? Okay, in the center here, this is a wild native coreopsis that I collected seeds from a nature preserve nearby. They grow, it's coreopsis, and they make yellow and black flowers, and they grow pretty tall. I think they'll grow as tall as this bird bath. And I've got a few calendula in here. I planted another one on this side, but it hasn't sprouted yet. I also popped some oregano in here. Hopefully the oregano will kind of spread. And I've got a few of those Japanese white dandelions here that I planted last year. I didn't know they would come back. Some clover as well. And I also sowed a few more of the dwarf. I bought a dwarf coreopsis seed from Baker Creek, and I sowed that in some of these empty areas. So we'll see if that comes up. That's exciting. That is my lemon balm bush. One of my most recent videos, I showed how to completely cut back and harvest your whole lemon balm plant, because when you can cut the lemon balm back to just like 6 inches tall. Like, that was 4 feet tall, and I completely cut it back to 6 inches tall, and it's grown back that much already. I'd say it's like a foot tall at this point, but it's very lush, and it's just going to keep growing back several times this season. It's going to grow back, and I'm going to cut it back. And I tied it up in bundles and hung it up to dry so that I can have lemon balm tea for like a whole year. It's a lot of lemon balm. That's my lemon thyme that I bought at Tractor Supply, and it's doing great, starting to spread out. This is yarrow. I started the yarrow from seed indoors, and I just transplanted it out here. And this whole area is also full of seeds that I just planted a couple of days ago. I planted milkweed, bee balm, yarrow, and elephant dill. I planted all over here, and those are all things that pollinators love. Monarch butterflies exclusively feed on milkweed, and I've never grown it before. I can't wait to see the monarch butterflies come to my yard to feed on it and make their cocoons on it. And elephant dill is apparently a favorite of swallowtail butterflies. So this is kind of like my this is my flower and herb garden. It's my pollinator garden. Hopefully all the pollinators will come here and eat the beautiful herbs and flowers that I planted for them and stay out of my vegetable garden. We'll see. And that is a rose bush that I bought from Tractor Supply and planted over a month ago, and it made 3 roses for me so far. And I've never grown roses before, so I don't really know what to expect as far as when it's going to bloom again. So that is it for the flower and herb garden. It's going to be such a special and beautiful space, and that I can't wait for you guys to see it in all its glory in like July and August. It's going to be really special. All right, so now it's time for the vegetable garden. And I've already harvested quite a bit of food from this vegetable garden, and I can't wait to be able to harvest what's coming. So when you first walk through the gate here, you walk through these 2 arched trellises that are going to be covered in leaves soon. So happy about my wind chime that I found. I actually found this wind chime at 2nd and Charles. And my little rusted dragonfly. I love dragonflies. They're very special, and I always end up seeing tons of dragonflies in the garden in the summer. But on this arch trellis, it's going to be beans. So far I've only got this side planted. Very soon I'm going to have to clear all this out and plant some more beans on this side. But this is California cow peas. Cow peas are like black-eyed peas on this end, and then on that end are purple green beans. And I devised a clever way to keep bunnies from eating my bean plants. Last year I planted 50 bean plants, and every single one of them, I think I had 5 that survived but didn't really produce much because they had been nibbled on. But basically almost every single one of those 50 bean plants got eaten by bunnies. So I've made a special little fence to protect the bean plants from the bunny rabbits. And you can see that they're getting tall, and they're climbing already. In a couple of weeks, I think they're gonna be very tall. And in this bed, I've planted some basil that I started from seed, and these are ground cherries here. I've never grown ground cherries before, but they are a sweet fruit that bird is wanting to be part of this video. I don't know where he is. Oh, there he is. That's nope. He's up there. I don't think we can see him, but he's very vocal guy. Anyway, ground cherries are related to tomatoes and tomatillos. It's gonna make a really big, beautiful plant, and it's gonna make a little round fruit that looks like a tomato in a husk. And when they fall off the plant, they are ready to eat, and they're really sweet, and you can make pies and jams. So I'm excited about ground cherries. I'm not sure exactly what else is gonna go in this bed. I think I might get some strawberry plants, and I might plant maybe like carrots and beets down on this end. It's hard to see right now because I let them get grown up with weeds, but there's one bed here and one bed here, and they're 4 foot by 8 foot beds filled with compost. And yes, I let them get grown over with weeds, but it's on my list to clear this out. And this bed is going to be peppers, and this bed is going to be corn and amaranth, and I need to really get those planted. This bed was the first bed that I planted with my brassicas and greens and things. You can see that I made another enclosure here around the trellis for my sugar snap peas. And the sugar snap peas, it was my first time growing them. This is as tall as they've gotten, and I think they're about to be done. They're about to be done producing. Ooh, there's a treat. Because they don't like hot weather, so I'm about to pull them out and plant probably some speckled lima beans that I got at the farmer's market the other day. These are so good. I'm gonna have to snack on that. And down here I've got lima beans planted. On this side, the lima beans I started indoors, and I transplanted them out, and I've heard that beans don't transplant well. I did leave them in the little pots too long, I think, and I was worried that they weren't going to do very well. But I was really excited to see that they have actually started climbing. So I will get lima beans from these plants. And on that side are lima beans that I direct sowed that are starting to climb as well. And the sugar snap peas were delicious. They We really didn't get enough to harvest and cook, but we snacked on them every time we were out here in the garden. I'm still getting some. I don't know when they're gonna stop producing. There's another big one down there. But every time my daughter and I were out here working in the garden, we just snacked on sugar snap peas. Sugar snap peas that you grow at home are so sweet. They almost taste like candy. And they just taste way better than sugar snap peas that you've bought at the store. They're so juicy and so sweet and fresh. I think the sugars really degrade quickly. So when you get them at the store, I had a friend tell me, and she thought sugar snap peas tasted like dirt. And I can see how she thought that after trying this fresh sugar snap pea off the vine. It's so sweet and delicious. But here are some massive mustard greens. Like, these guys are fully 2 feet tall, and they're starting to bolt, which is confusing to me because my mustard greens didn't bolt last year. It may have something to do with the fact that I started these indoors and transplanted them out. Maybe if I started them from seed in the ground, they wouldn't bolt, because they didn't last year. But I'm still harvesting them. I have a ton, and I've been eating mustard greens. I've been sauteing them with other greens for dinner, and I'm also going to put them in a vegetable soup. They're really delicious. Back along here, I've got red ragged jack kale mixed with some turnips in there. And the turnips, they're not getting very big. I don't know if I'm just not waiting long enough. But they're staying pretty small, and I've never grown that variety before, so I don't know if that's just the size that they get. Here I've got Chiji Masai, which I got from Baker Creek, that I've never grown before. It's an Asian green, kind of like tatsoi, and it's delicious. It's kind of like spinach. It's really tender and really mild and flavorful. But it went to seed. I guess it does not like the hot weather. And I'm trying to see if I can show you. When it goes to seed and makes these little heads, it looks like mini broccolis, and they're actually delicious, and they taste a little bit like broccoli, and they kind of send off little heads here. So I'm glad I tried that this year. I think next year I'll plant it earlier so I can get more of a harvest before it goes to seed. That's a scarlet kale that's starting to look good. That's a huge red ragged jack kale. I love that. I love red ragged jack kale. I've never grown it before. You can see those beautiful purple stems, and it's just a gorgeous plant. This bed is okra. This is a mix of Jing orange okra and Clemson spineless. And something is eating my okra plants. I don't know if it's a bunny or a bug. I've got slug bait over here, and that's helped, but I do have a young bunny rabbit. This is the Jing orange okra. It's so pretty. This is some of the Clemson spineless. And I really need to figure out how to keep these plants from getting eaten so that I can actually have some. There is some lettuce that is doing well. It's starting to bolt. I need to go ahead and harvest more of it. This is kohlrabi, which I'm growing for the first time, but some people call it a cabbage turnip because it's kind of like a root vegetable. It makes this big bulb here above the ground, which I'm gonna harvest it when it gets about the size of a tennis ball. But it is a brassica, like broccoli or cauliflower or cabbage. So I'm excited to try that. Back along here, I've planted a Charente melon. It's like a cantaloupe, but it's a French heirloom melon that I got from Baker Creek. So that's going to climb all the way up and over the trellis. So this is wild. I need to get back here with a weed eater and clear all this out. But I'm gonna plant more melons along the back, maybe a watermelon. And I have some silver slicer cucumbers here. They all got planted right together in a bunch, but I'm just gonna let them grow because I think that they'll probably spread out. I can train them to spread over this whole 4-foot space, so that should be plenty of space for them. So this trellis is gonna be hanging with melons and cucumbers. This trellis is going to be pumpkins. I've got some Gerardale pumpkins that I'm going to put in the ground right over here. I'm using these bags of soil to smother the weeds and grass, and I can move those back and plant things and then cover up with mulch around the plants. These are 2 pumpkin plants. I started these pumpkin plants from seed indoors, and they were not looking great. See, this one just looks really stunted. It's really little and it's already like blooming and got a little weird fruit. This one's looking a little bit better because the leaves are larger, but I might pull these up because I planted them indoors and I think I let them get really root bound. They did not do well. Down here I have my cucuzza squash, which it's actually cucuzza gourd, but if you pick it young enough, you can use it like zucchini. And I'm really excited about this. It's an Italian heirloom that my great-grandfather used to grow in his home garden, and he was an Italian immigrant, and I'm just really excited to grow this. Look at this bloom. I've not seen a cucuzza bloom. It's so pretty. It is light beige with like this white spider webbing pattern. It looks like a snowflake almost. Light peach, light beige, and it's gorgeous. Oh my gosh. I hope you get pollinated. Well, it's just actually, it's a male flower, so he would do the pollinating, and I don't see any female flowers on the plant, but that's okay. It's still little. It needs to get bigger before it starts making fruit. So I've got that on both sides, and cucuzza gourds are long. They are very long and pale green and really cool looking. This bed, these are my potato plants. This is my first year growing potatoes, and I've been hilling mine up with wood chips. You can see how I've been doing that. I need to put more wood chips around here, but they are blooming, so in several weeks I could start pulling up small little new potatoes, or for most of them I'm gonna wait until the plants die back so I can get larger potatoes. Here is my first sweet potato plant that I planted. One of my most recent videos shows you how to get sweet potato slips from an organic sweet potato that you buy at the grocery store. And this is the first one that got big enough for me to plant in the ground. And like I said, I have a young bunny, a tiny cute little bunny rabbit that I see out here all the time, and he likes to eat the leaves off of my sweet potato plant. It's got a couple of leaves growing on it though, so I'm gonna get some kind of netting and put over it, and hopefully that will keep the leaf from getting eaten. And this whole plot is going to be full of sweet potatoes. I've got about 6 more plants inside. 6 more sweet potato plants that are gonna go in the ground soon. And it's not too late for them. They prefer really hot weather. They're not gonna grow in weather that's not really hot. So I'm gonna get this full of sweet potatoes. And I finally got my tomato plants in the ground. I made these cinder block raised beds because this is at a real slope here, and my soil was getting washed away, so I decided to make these beds and kind of tier them up. And these are my tomato plants that I started indoors, and they're starting to get big and beautiful. I just transplanted these maybe 2 weeks ago, and I transplanted these about a week ago, and I made a video showing how to plant tomato seedlings if you're interested in checking that out. And sad news, this morning I come out here and find this, which was a tomato plant. There's two in this bed that are chewed down like that, and there's one back there that's chewed down. So I've lost 3 tomato plants, which is really disappointing, but I had 28 total, so I still have 25 plants, and I'll leave those stubs. I mean, maybe they'll start growing leaves at this point, but I've got to figure out what's doing that. It's like, it doesn't look like a bug did it. I mean, I really don't, unless it was a tomato hornworm, it could have done that. But I guess I need to start spraying something out here, like some BT or something. But if it's, I didn't think bunny rabbits ate tomato plants. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's really sad, but I'll figure it out. It's so beautiful. And tomato leaves, if you've never smelled a tomato plant, just rub the leaves and get some of the oils on your hand and smell that. It's glorious. It really is beautiful. And these are a bunch of different varieties of heirloom tomatoes that I'm really, really excited about. So the last thing to show you is my raspberry plant. And I've had this raspberry plant for about 3 years now, and it didn't do anything the last 2 years. And I recently learned that, well, not recently, I learned it back when I planted it. Raspberry plants, they don't produce fruit until the canes are 2 years old. And I haven't been back here in a minute, but basically I have 2-year-old canes now. It's a really tall weed. I have 2-year-old canes now, so they bloomed for the first time this year, and they're making fruit now. And I got some bird netting that I have to get out here and put the bird netting on my raspberry bush to keep the birds from eating all my raspberries. It's like a tiny little raspberry, and I don't know how they work. I don't know if that's a tiny little raspberry. I don't know how they work. I don't know if this berry is going to get bigger or if they just set at the size that they're going to be. And I'm guessing that these are not ripe. If they're like blackberries, then they're going to get dull and not shiny when they're ripe. And these all still look pretty. Oh, okay, that's falling off. I guess it's ripe. Oh my gosh. You guys, I just tried one of these and they are ripe. I've never grown raspberries before, but they're ripe out here, so I need to get out here and harvest this little handful that's ripe. And I need to get the bird netting on the plant so that the birds don't get them all before I do. Oh my gosh. They're delicious. That was my first couple of raspberries that I grew ever. Oh my gosh. I love growing things. I love growing things so much. I'm gonna get out here with a bucket later and harvest, actually like now. I'm gonna go get a bucket and harvest some raspberries. My daughter is going to love those. She loves raspberries. We all do. And that's just so cool to have grown delicious raspberries. But that's my garden. That's everything that's going on right now. It's coming along, it's taking shape. I hope that you're able to also see the vision for what it's going to look like very soon. We're in the time of year, midsummer, when it's just going to start transforming week by week. Just like 2 weeks of growth is going to look incredible in this garden. So thank you so much for taking the time to check out this beautiful, luscious garden, and I hope that you enjoyed this garden tour, and if you did, I hope that you would like this video, and I hope that you would subscribe to see more garden tours, to track this garden as it turns into a wild food paradise, basically. Yeah, I hope that you follow along with that journey. And I also do post tutorials, gardening tutorials, and little DIY quick tips, little short videos with clever things you can do to, and often free and cheap clever things you can do to enhance your gardening experience. So thank you, and I hope you have a great day, and happy growing.